You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 668, Battling Binge Eating and Finding Fitness with Caitlin Barnett.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine. My guest today is a coworker. That's fun to say, right? Is Caitlin Barnett, who teaches Cincy Circuit here at Cincy 360 Fitness. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat. So I talked to all of the personal trainers here on the podcast and got to know everybody's backstory and how they came to work at Cincy 360. And now, I mean, you're here. Well, you're here twice a week now, but Saturday mornings you're here teaching Cincy Circuit, which I want to get into in a second. But for me, I mean, because I trained here at the gym with Josh for a few years before I obviously started working here, and I never came in on a Saturday. Like, I have not experienced the gym on a Saturday until a few months ago when I started training here, and I'm like, oh man, stuff is happening in here on a Saturday. I'm like, everybody, I mean, because you're at limited capacity from COVID, but it's just kind of like, it's just a different experience in this gym than I'd had before, and it's just like really fun. It's just, the music, and you're doing a circuit class, and you just, I don't know, you just put out an awesome vibe in the gym.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it feels like a party to me. I definitely, even, now teaching at 6 a.m. on Wednesdays, I still leave that class feeling like I'm jazzed. I'm ready for the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little backstory about you. Are you from Cincinnati?
I didn't grow up in Cincinnati. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, farm country. So if anyone knows Beloit, Ohio or Salem, Ohio, those are my stomping grounds. But I did come down to Cincinnati for school. So I went to Xavier for my undergrad, and then I moved out to Colorado for a few years after that. And then I moved back here to Cincinnati in 2016. So I've been back almost 5 years.
So what did you go to school for?
I studied public relations. I started off undecided. I had truly had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew mostly I wanted to get out of my hometown.
Yeah, I understand that. I feel that.
Yeah. And I definitely, a lot of people in my hometown stuck around to do, trade work or farm work. And a lot of people did go. A lot of people went to Ohio State if they ended up going to school somewhere, or maybe 2-year programs. I was really dead set on going out of state, but I landed at Xavier partly because of a great scholarship. So ended up there. Still, I was just so focused on getting out, just did not know what I wanted to do. If I could do it over again, I don't know that PR would be my first pick, but I had a really great experience studying that, meeting a lot of great people, still friends with some of the people I met in my dorm room freshman year.
Nice.
Or in my hall, I should say. Yeah, so definitely don't regret the experience, but definitely chasing different learning opportunities now.
So were you ever like an athlete? Was physical fitness part of your jam?
I did play volleyball in middle school. Prior to that, I started milking cows when I was 10. So for folks that may not know, the process of milking cows is pretty physically demanding, especially if you don't have what's called a parlor, which the farm I was working on did not. So I had
What's a parlor?
It helps automate the milking process.
Okay, so it's like those like little machines you see that get like stuck on the udders and like milk.
Okay. And then they can go on like a rotating, platform.
Hold on, I got to understand this thing. So this thing will go and just like suction up on an udder, pull off, rotate around, and just go suck onto another cow.
True. Yeah. And obviously
that's so awkward. I mean, but a person needs to make. Okay, I was going to say, like, how does it know? AI is so creepy.
AI. But so we didn't have a parlor, so we still had the big milkers, and they still had the suction cups for the teats,
okay,
which are the individual things that squirt milk out of an udder. Things I never thought I'd be talking about on a podcast.
I'm super hyped we're talking about this. This is awesome.
So anyway, these milkers, they have to weigh. I mean, granted, it was in middle school when I started. They felt really heavy. I'd have to guess somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds. And
so did your family own a farm?
My family did not, but we were surrounded by so many farms that I was working on a dairy farm
But
that I could walk
you're
to
like,
in the mornings. Yeah.
But I mean, are we talking a little illegal here? You seem a little young to have a job.
Now that I'm saying this and realizing it probably was. It was just so normal, though.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about also, too. I mean, I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, not with the cows, but it's detasseling corn. And that's where they're like, hey, kiddo, you want a couple bucks? Get out there and detassel the corn, because nobody wants to have that job. So I think it's kind of the same thing of like, yeah you're 12 and 13, but here's $10. Go do the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly was just excited to have something to do, in the summer. And anyway, so yeah, that was kind of like my intro to like physical labor, other than just, being a kid and playing outside. And I did. So yeah, I my friend crew in middle school played volleyball in 7th grade. So in 8th grade, I decided I also wanted to play volleyball.
Yeah.
And that lasted, I think, for 2 years. And then I just prioritized, after that point, I prioritized working because my family didn't really have money growing up, and I really wanted money to, have a car, eventually go to school. So still milked cows, worked at a pet grooming salon, worked at Subway.
Oh my God, I worked at Subway too.
A sandwich artist.
And how long were you a sandwich artist?
Oh gosh, probably 3 to 4 years.
Oh yeah, man. I worked at Subway. I started when I was 15 in my hometown, but then the first several places I moved for radio jobs, I also worked at Subway because I didn't make enough money to make rent. So I've worked at 1, 2, 3 or 4 different Subways.
Wow.
Right? I know you're impressed.
I am talking to royalty here.
I mean, I don't really run into a former sandwich artist, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and when I was 17, I became a senior sandwich artist.
Oh my goodness, I never was blessed with that title. What is it? I was a supervisor. Is that like the same thing?
Oh no, I think that's like the next step up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it just basically was like, make sure things don't, get set on fire and that sort of thing.
Can you eat at Subway now?
I generally choose not to.
Yeah, same. Dude, that smell will like be in your nightmares forever.
Yep.
Sorry, Subway, but like
truly.
You can just walk past a Subway and like, at least for me, it's like PTSD where I'm like, oh, just smell that bread.
I had a dedicated bag, and it was only that bag that I would take into Subway because I had to drive straight from school. And it just never got rid of that sandwich smell.
Yeah. Well, we would do, because like I hung out with all of, in high school, all my friends there, where we would all like wait for whoever's closing to be done. And we would just all change clothes in the freezer and then go out. And we would all, I imagine when we went out and did, mini golf or whatever we did that night, we just had to smell like a cloud of Subway walking into some place. Like, it's just, I don't know how we didn't all just stank like it. But yeah, I mean, I would eat at Subway now. I mean, it's not that I hate it, but it's like, it's the bottom of the list.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
But what would your sandwich of choice be? I know I'm taking this off the rails here, but
speaking of health and fitness, I was always a fan of the turkey ham.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was, I don't know. I liked the tuna sandwich. So especially once we got the toaster.
Yeah.
To make a tuna sandwich toasted with the cheese on it. I don't know. That was my jam.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, incredibly unhealthy because you had to use the big old sack of mayonnaise to make it. So it's an insane amount of mayonnaise. I would add more mayonnaise. I would add more oil and a butt ton of cheese. And I would say that was probably my number one. And it's so funny because I was just talking about Subway last night with my husband, and we were talking about meatball subs. And I'm like, I could only eat a meatball sub if it had an insane amount of cheese on it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Weird food rules. Sorry, tangent. Anyway, you're like, I did not know we were going to spend so much time on this section of my resume. So then outside of college, when did you start, like, find the bug to be like, I want to, teach group fitness, like that became a part of your life.
Yeah. I mean, fitness didn't really become a part of my life until after I graduated college. That July after I graduated is when I got an offer to work at the University of Colorado Boulder. So I had never even been west of the Mississippi, and I knew very little about Colorado other than, of course, there were mountains and that it was like the fittest state in the nation. And so my first thought, I'm not kidding, other than being very excited, was, oh crap, I need to get in shape, I think. And I have always held, a bit of extra weight, and particularly in high school. And we can definitely get into this, but I, ended up developing some disordered eating, lasted throughout college and into mid to late 20s. But so, I rapidly gained a lot of weight in high school, never really got it off in college, only gained more, of course, as a lot of college students do. So not the most comfortable in my body in general, not always physically active, or certainly never trained, properly for anything. So I ended up just downloading the Couch to 5K app. And I was like, I'll start with running. It was free, something I could do. I was going to be moving and it was going to be expensive. So I was like, here we go. What's free that I can do? So I started doing that. Definitely fell in love with running. And once I ended up out in Colorado, of course, I was hiking a lot. And then it starts getting colder, of course. And right around October, where I lived in Boulder, I was walking distance from a brand new Anytime Fitness that had just opened up. And so they were doing a promotion where you could sign up for $1. And so save like $49 on the entry fee or whatever. And then it was like $10 a month or something, super affordable. So I said, great, I'll try this out. I'll try going to a gym, keep up with my running, keep in hiking shape. But that really ended up being an awesome community. I totally fell in love with going to the gym. And, when I was on like the gym floor, I definitely stuck with the cardio equipment. Very typical, female in the gym who hasn't really been around weights, right?
Yeah.
Just stick with cardio. And then they hired a personal trainer who also taught like a boot camp class on Tuesday, Thursdays. And so I started going to that. That's where I was just learning about like how to properly squat and lunge and different variations of these different strength exercises. So I kept up with that, for the time that I lived there. But I hadn't even had the thoughts of, I want to be on the other side. I want to be teaching this. It was when I moved back to Cincinnati, and I'd probably been living here for about 2 years. And I was really searching for that gym community again. And I wasn't really finding it. I was kind of bouncing around on ClassPass. And I went into a group fitness studio. Can't remember the time of year, what year exactly. Probably 2018-ish. Walked into a studio coming off a ClassPass. So this instructor had never seen me before. It wasn't a place I was super familiar with. And I walked in and she gave me like the up and down with her eyes. And without even asking me anything was like, we have modifications for everything. So don't worry.
Oh, ew.
I said, wait, what? I was just so confused. I was like, I can do like most things. I'm not an elite athlete, but I can do squats and planks, and if I need, and I've done enough things. Be like, if I needed to modify, well, I just will. It's like what? I was just so confused and so taken aback. And so throughout the class, she kept singling me out. She'd call a move and be like, "Oh, but you can just do a plank, for example. Like you just take it to your knees," and then I wouldn't. Right?
What a bitch.
No kidding.
Jeez.
No kidding.
Wow.
And for listeners that probably have never seen me before, right? I'm probably like in the size 10-ish, range, give or take. So some,
I would never look at
thick
you
with 2 C's, right?
But I would never look at you and be like, this girl doesn't know how to exercise. Like,
sure. It's an assumption you shouldn't make about anybody
no.
in general, right? So
I wouldn't even classify you as overweight or anything like that. To me, like, it's just insane to me of like, how mean is this woman to everyone?
Right. And what does that say about the fitness industry in general? I remember like a year ago, I traveled to Indianapolis to a conference with somebody, and on the way back, they had asked like, can we stop at Wendy's? I know that you're like really healthy and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to judge you for we need dinner. Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
It's fine. Like, but how much judgment people think, or there is just in this fitness world toward people. It's like, anyway, no one deserves to be judged like that.
No.
So I walked out of that class, and my first thought walking out was, I will never make anybody feel like that. I would never want anyone to feel the way I felt in that class. And so that's when the seed was planted, I think. But it wasn't a conscious thought for me that I wanted to actively pursue group fitness and teaching group fitness until about a year later. I have a friend in San Diego who's also like a life coach and a confidence coach. And she kept saying, kept encouraging me, like, if you want to do something or even just get the certificate, just get your certificate, right? Or your certification, I should say. Just do it. I mean, the worst that happens is that it doesn't work out, and you still have a full-time job elsewhere. Yeah. Right? So I kind of went for it. Serendipity brought me here to 360 with a Beauty Boost event, actually. I was an ambassador. How did that work out? Yeah, it was good. I was an ambassador with them for a while. It was like a group fitness event. Josh taught circuit. And I was like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool class. So I decided to come back. I'd sign up on MindBody, and I came and took class with Nick and Josh and Chelsea and Leah when they were kind of cycling through teaching the class. And then I needed some shoulder rehab. So I was actually training with Josh for a little while as well in 2019. And then at the end of my training, I was letting him know, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to get this ACE certification to be a group fitness instructor. I'm really excited about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know if I'm going to do anything with it. I just think it'd be so cool to have this and learn. And, I'm just really excited. And that's when he had brought up, well, our trainers don't really want to be teaching Cincy Circuit when they could be training clients. I was considering hiring somebody to teach the classes. So if you're interested, we could talk. So come October 2019, I started teaching Cincy Circuit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And now, because Cincy Circuit's Saturday mornings, and now it's Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m.
Yes.
And so walk me through like what a typical Cincy Circuit class is like.
Yeah. So our circuit setup, we start off with a strength block. So the strength block for both Wednesday and Saturday mornings are 8 exercises. Because we have a dedicated core section on Wednesdays, the strength block is primarily just upper and lower body exercises. So, you might be doing some lunges, might be doing some overhead pressing or chest press or rows, things like that. Saturdays, I might mix in a little bit of core in there since there's not a dedicated core section. But primarily, I try to hit your basic movement patterns, right? Your squat, your hinge, your pull, your push, and just mix it up with exercises within that. Nothing super gimmicky. So, you won't see like maybe what you might see, on social media where you like do a bent over row to a press, to a fly, to a back flip, to a handstand. Yeah. We try to keep it, efficient and smart. Anyway, so you have a strength block, and then do 3 rounds of that. Then you move into a cardio block. The Wednesday morning class is an express class, so it's a little bit shorter for the working time for strength and cardio. And the cardio exercises are only 4. On Saturday mornings, it's 8 strength, 3 rounds of that, 8 cardio exercises, 3 rounds of that, and then you're done. So cardio can look like anything from mountain climbers to skater lunges, high knees, the dreaded burpee. Yeah. And of course, what I love about the class, though, is that with strength and cardio, people can modify to their needs. So if you need to take the weight out, take the jump out, we had someone in here with basically a broken foot who has to, be careful on single leg exercises. And so there's always a modification. And that's the sign of any good coach or instructor, always be, transparent with that person. If anyone likes group fitness and goes to group fitness, let us know. We'd love to accommodate if anyone has injuries. The Wednesday morning, so just those 4 cardio exercises, and then there's a dedicated core section at the very end with 4 exercises targeting your core. So sit-ups, things like that. Yeah.
Well, what I've noticed with the Saturday classes over the past several months is I love that you brought up like the sense of community, which has got you interested in this space of like, that's what it feels like. I see the familiar faces. It seems like your Cincy Circuit, at least Saturday crew, like is a crew. Like it just feels like that it feels like they all show up together and then like we all do this class together and it just becomes its like own cool little crew. I don't know. I just really like that vibe a lot.
That is easily my favorite thing. And it's been such a highlight since I started, but in particular in the dumpster fire that is COVID era. And I totally agree. And, major shout out to the OGs that were with me from the very beginning when I started, when I was going through the learning curve and the growing pains of learning what the heck I was doing and being an efficient and engaging instructor. But yeah, I totally agree. I love catching up with people and hearing about like, oh, like how are your kids doing, or what are you doing this weekend, or just being able to catch up when someone's out on vacation and hear about how that was. So it is fun to just kind of chit chat in between sets and stuff. And, yeah.
Is there any part of you that wants to go back to that other place and work out with that chick again and be like, yeah.
See this?
Yeah, like I have a better gig than you. I cannot wait to hear where this place was. Oh man, I am excited to hear what that place is.
A little off-air conversation.
Yeah, right? So since you brought it up and you said you're open to talking about it, I'm curious to hear about your disordered eating, because I mean, as a person with disordered eating, I mean, I'm very curious about your experience.
Yeah, definitely. So actually it's not the same as you, but the same disorder. So binge eating disorder. Started in middle school, actually started after my 8th grade volleyball season. I wasn't at practice after school anymore. I wasn't milking after school, so for a while. So I just kind of got bored. Also there, I grew up in a pretty unstable home environment. With some emotional manipulation from, primarily my mother, parents, both, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, trauma, emotional, instability. I just started turning to food for comfort, and it quickly spiraled into, these binges where I would eat until I was uncomfortably full, hiding the evidence. I even remember one time, it was before I had my driver's license. There was this corner store, probably a little over a mile from my house. I had to bike up a hill to get there, and I was in binge mode, and I had to have something. And you probably know that it feels like someone else is taking over when you're in binge mode. Like there's no rationality, just goes out the window.
Yeah.
It was pouring rain. I biked my butt up that hill. Probably walked my bike up that hill, really.
Yeah.
I had like a little bucket crossbody purse I brought with me. I had like, I don't know, $15, $20 or whatever on me. I bought all like the candy, chips, snacks, anything that like what my money could get me, right?
Yeah.
Because I had to have it. Biked my butt back down that hill in the pouring rain on a windy country road where there's not like a dedicated bike lane.
Yeah.
So easily could have gotten hit, right? Again, rationality completely out the window, soaking wet. Consumed multiple candy bars, bags of chips, ho-hos, whatever, all in one sitting, hiding the evidence, and I could hear my mom and my stepdad sometimes like talking about it behind my back, right? Like, oh, she's gaining weight. Like, what the heck's happening? And one time after a volleyball game, we had lost and I was kind of upset. And my mom grabbed me by my shirt collar outside, pinned me up against the outside wall of my middle school and like, what the hell's going on? What is going on? And so I remember thinking, this could be the moment where I say, something is wrong. I have an eating disorder. But instead of doing that, because we just didn't have a healthy relationship, and I didn't feel comfortable saying anything, I just kept saying nothing, when it wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
So that just really continued into college, and I mean, I worked a lot in college too, just for money purposes. Even though I was on a great scholarship, I still needed to work, of course, and pay rent and all that fun stuff. And of course, there's already shame and guilt as you know, and have described on other episodes, right? That cycle of shame and guilt that comes with this. And then of course the extra side of like, I don't need to be spending the money on this food, but it literally feels like I can't control it.
Yeah. It's just like a fever.
Yeah.
It just takes the driver's seat.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, truly. And so moving to Colorado was very helpful, kind of having that fresh start, and just being really active. And just from being more active, I did slim down a little bit. I probably lost between 10 and 15 pounds. I don't know. Wasn't weighing myself very consistently, so that's a rough estimate. And I remember a lot of people pointing out, like, wow, you look so great. You look so great. Good job. Like, noticing that I had lost weight. I was like, oh, okay. Like, oh, wow, I'm getting positive attention, which is something I wasn't quite used to. Even though I had friends and everything, but when you come from a traumatic childhood where a lot of things aren't positive at home, it's hard to recognize when things are positive elsewhere. So I kind of hooked onto that, and I became hyper fixated on, well, I want to look better. I want to look good. I need to lose weight. Hyper fixation on your body, and when you don't already have much, I don't have a healthy body image, not great for binge eating disorder.
Yeah.
I think there's been some studies done recently that show that body dissatisfaction is a leading trigger for binge eating disorder specifically. So I think there's a great Instagram account. I think it's binge_eating_recovery that posts a lot of great study, like peer-reviewed study information. So it's, I don't know, education feels like power to me sometimes. So I try to learn as much as I can. Anyway, kind of getting through that, I went to a therapist in Colorado, I should say, and in college. I went through a very specific traumatic event in college, actually during my study abroad term. When I came back, kind of felt like a shell of myself. And I was trying to talk about that, trying to talk about other things. And my therapist really wanted to focus on my mom. And I said, that's wonderful, but I really want to talk about these other things. Didn't quite work out. My therapist in Boulder was trying some really eclectic methods.
That sounds very Boulder.
It sounds very Boulder. I was like, again, we're not really getting to the root of this. I finally got wisened up in 2019 and found a therapist here that has been super, super helpful. And we've been able to talk about all the things. All that to come into the binge eating disorder. What's really interesting about recovery, which is just, I think, something as I got older, became more confident in myself, have further with time removed myself from things in the past, recovery just kind of came about. And I've worked at it too, and I've worked on myself. But then there's like the maintenance stage where, like, at least for me, it's never really gone away. Like, my brain will still think about, oh, like today when I was out and about, it's like, well, I mean, you could just swing through a UDF and grab sweets and eat them in the car and then throw the wrapper away at the trash can in front of the building that you're going to next. And so it almost feels, at this point, like intrusive thoughts of, oh, wow, I don't want that to be me. Why is it still there? Why do I still have these thoughts?
How do you deal with them when you have those thoughts?
I can't lie. Everyone, once in a blue moon, I act on them.
Yeah.
Don't love that. But I think your podcast is an excellent resource, and I'm so appreciative that you have talked about it with Dr. Ashley Solomon and just on your own. And there was an episode with Josh that I remember listening to on a walk probably 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. And I remember crying because you described it so well of your experience. And I was like, I relate to that. Oh, yes, this is so real.
Oh, man, I got to figure out what episode that is.
I know, me too. I meant to DM you on Instagram. Anyway, so I try to at least surround like my consumption of, either media or education sources of like basically things that are reaffirming that I'm still human and I'm still worthy of this life. And that this is just a human experience that I can work through. So a lot of times that can mean, if I'm having some of those intrusive thoughts, that can mean journaling, or even like going for a walk. Movement is really powerful for me. And not to get confused with like over exercising or overtraining, but just being able to do something, right? Like some yoga, some walking, or, sticking to my planned workout for the day can be really helpful, or at least using that as motivation. Like, if you binge, it's going to be hard to do some barbell back squats without feeling like you're going to throw up.
Yeah.
I'm at least at a point now where I can recognize those thoughts. 6, 7, 8 years ago, if binge mode came on, I don't know. I don't think I was in a place where I could identify that that's something I need to be cognizant of and take a step back and breathe.
100%. And just even you talking about like your childhood experience, because I've lived through something similar. yeah, that's where my food was my coping mechanism. And I wouldn't even have placed any thought of any sort of eating disorder. I'm like, it's just amazing to me that you were aware of that, because that is so far out of my head. But I mean, I would eat entire boxes of au gratin potatoes and like multiple cans of chili with multiple bags of cheese at once. Like that's just that's what my childhood was, because I was kind of just left on my own with the food, and never, just even now, you saying that, like I've piecing those pieces together as I'm thinking of, like, not only that, but even when I was binging as an adult in my 20s, I didn't put that label on it, and I never even put that label on it until I started this podcast. So not even till 2018, which there is a podcast that I did. It was like a 15-minute phone interview with somebody that was an expert in this, where I wouldn't have diagnosed myself with binge eating disorder. And she's like, no, that's what that is. Like when you are eating to the point of pain multiple times a week, and I was doing it every night. And like, to me now, and I like what you were just saying of like, how did I not put that together at the time? I'm doing this behavior, but in my mind at the time, it's just kind of like, well, I just really love food. Like it wasn't even thinking about how much it was numbing out or escaping or something I had control over. To me, I was just like, oh my God, what a turd of a human you are. Like you're just doing this thing and not associating it with what it really is. And so, yeah, it's just wild how that works of, your brain just won't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Yeah. But it's so incredibly helpful to have this conversation and be like, oh no, like somebody else feels that way. Because this is something where we've never discussed this with each other before. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't even just come up to a coworker and been like, yo, let me tell you about the thoughts I had about going and eating some snowballs on the way here and hiding the trash from you. You know what I mean? It's just like so shameful and quiet. But I think shedding light on it adds so much freedom to it, to just exposing it for what it is. So I don't know, at least I find that helpful. On top of, I think that's so huge, like what you're saying of starting to get those thoughts of like, go for a walk, like listen to your favorite song, drink a glass of cold water, like try to just find some other coping mechanism is so helpful. But I think also just acknowledging and knowing that's what those thoughts are and those feelings are. I feel like it's just like, I don't know. I think it just unlocks something that helps you not go into that fever as quickly. So I don't know if you feel that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on a really good point about just, there are times when you just feel like a garbage human, right? And you just like, we can be so hard on ourselves. And it's taken me a lot of work, a lot of therapy, to realize like I'm allowed to acknowledge that like this might be a behavior that I don't like, but that doesn't mean that I am a garbage human.
Yeah, you're not defined by that behavior.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just, I mean, I think it's so important to talk about this and have this discussion, because somebody might be listening that is doing these things and not, or just thinking, I just can't lose weight and I can't be happy in my own body, or I feel like this garbage human, and not associating with there's some trauma and pain behind those things. Like you don't just accidentally become a binge eater. It's not just because you just love the flavor of the food so much. When it becomes, when it takes the driver's seat to actually like, if I need to undo this behavior and be in the body, find a body that I love, or have the mindset to love my body and who I am, I kind of have to go to the core of why I'm doing this. And that is messy, hard work. And that is way harder than eat less, move more.
It is difficult. Yeah. If someone had told me, hey, this is going to be a long, difficult journey, you have to put in the day-to-day work, I mean, it might have helped to know that like, okay, this is serious. It doesn't just go away overnight. Yeah. And just like, if you're here training, right, you do have to put in your sets and your reps daily, weekly, whatever. Same with like just a mental health journey in general. That maintenance, getting to an optimal level, if you're not at an optimal level, it takes some work. That's kind of like the hard pill to swallow, I think, for me, for a lot of people. And yeah.
And then I just, I've had people ask me before of like, how did you solve your binge eating problem? Like, I didn't solve it. I'm still living it. You know, again, like those thoughts still come up. They don't come up as often as they used to. I've changed my mindset in a lot of ways, but that's not to saying like, I mean, just even through COVID, like last year was a total kick to the head in a lot of ways. And like, for me, like, even though I didn't like binge out, I binged a couple times, which was, I thought, huge progress to go through depression and COVID and everything else to be like, I went back to this deeply rooted coping mechanism. Like that is burned into who I am. Like that is in the fabric of me forever. Part of that is. And when times get really rough, it's like I'm reaching for something to make me feel better. And you're around food. You know what I mean? And we have such easy access. Like you said, I'm just going to go to UDF. I'm just going to run to the store. I have money. I'm an adult. I got a car.
Yep.
I can do these choices. And it's, the work is to like sit there and feel like, do I really want to do this? Why am I doing this? Is there something else I can do? And so it's not that, I mean, I know that I'm going to have some level of these thoughts for the rest of my life. And I don't know if you feel that way or if I don't mean that to sound depressing or you know what I mean? Like the glass is half empty sort of thing. It's just like, I think the realization of that and not think of, oh, all my problems will go away once I like have this body that in my mind I think that I want, that acknowledging it, I don't know, that feels more comfortable to me to be like, this is just something that I get better at managing instead of thinking that it should go away. And then when it doesn't go away, go back to the thoughts of I'm a garbage human.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's depressing at all. It's realistic. It's something that like you just have to be able to deal with and develop those coping mechanisms. And I know for me, one of my bigger hurdles being in this space at Cincy 360 was just this massive sense of imposter syndrome when I started. I mean, I would walk in, I'd wake up every day thinking, I am such a fraud. I'm such a fraud. Why did he even hire me? Why am I doing this? Do these people not see me? Do they not of course, and this is all just this trash talk in my own head.
Yo, I've been living that every day for the past several months. I know exactly how you feel.
And looking back now, it's like, what a big hindrance on creating this community, just showing up in a confident manner for class for the people that paid to be here.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't doing, my job before to, some acceptable level, right? But I feel so much more confident now of I think even though COVID was just a dumpster fire in so many ways, it did give me an opportunity, since the gym was closed for a while and a lot of the responsibilities on my plate were no longer on my plate. I mean, I was really just forced to be with myself and be with my thoughts and my feelings. And there wasn't like a light bulb moment or anything for me, but some sort of realization of, I have to let that go.
Yeah.
I absolutely just have to let that go. I want to be in this space. Why not me? Why not me? You know? So just showing up and I'm not confident every day. I'm not confident every minute, but certainly I've just, at least when I walk through these doors, I at least know whatever things I might be feeling that I might need to deal with, I can at least leave them at the door for an hour and show up, be here for these people that come here every week or most weeks, right? And let's just work out. Let's get stronger together. Let's build this community. And of course, for people that are newer to group fitness, like, let's give them an experience. Let's give them a desire to come back. And that's all that stuff is not about me.
Yeah.
So it's just, if nothing else, the COVID era gave me that, and I'm very, very thankful for it. I'm glad something came out of it that has really transformed the way I walk into a group fitness space.
Well, I think that's totally, absolutely incredible. And this conversation is helping me a ton because of having my background of binge eating and, my weight issues and body image issues. And, being a personal trainer now, which is kind of just like mind bending. Like, I had a conversation just this past weekend and somebody asked me what I did for a living. And I'm like, I'm a personal trainer. And like, to say that out loud, I'm like, that's whacked. And so, but it's like, I have that level of imposter syndrome too, especially because all of the other trainers here are like so good at what they do. And I'm so new to this specific space where I am very conscious of when I'm training somebody and working with someone. Again, like I'm such a perfectionist too. Like I want everyone to have the best experience when they're here. I want them to enjoy exercise. I want them to have fun. I want them to get the workout that they want, hit the goals that they want. So I think in the moment when I'm with every person, I am 100% with them and love every minute of it. It's whenever the people are gone and then I get into my own head of like, do I really know what am I doing? Am I doing the best things? Am I looking for the right things? Am I telling them the right things to do with their muscle? And then, and then comparing myself to the other trainers here. And I'm like, I don't see the things that they're seeing, but I'm not supposed to yet. You know what I mean? Like nobody has all those answers in the beginning. So I'm working through that same thing of, I recognize this is how I'm treating myself and telling myself like, you don't belong here. But still knowing that's not true of like, I have my own valuable space here. Like I'm here for a reason because I'm bringing my own value to this instead of like, I'm not supposed to be one of the other trainers. I'm supposed to be me. And it's a hard thing to work through. It's a really hard thing to work through. And I'm working on that every day. And I feel like I'm in a better space now than I was 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because we have so many similarities of like, now I'm this person teaching this thing of like, how the hell did this happen?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy. So I don't know. Like, I'm really glad that you brought that up because yeah, again, it's like, helpful to know that you're not the only person sitting in those feelings, and I can tell those feelings to someone else and they're like, that's stupid, knock it off, right? And I'm like, but like, don't you understand? And so I don't know. Yeah. It's so weird whenever you have like I don't even say visualization or just like an idea of who you think you are or how you show up in the world, and then you try, like I would have never labeled myself as like personal trainer, you know what I mean? But now I'm in this and it's all just in my head. It's just in my head of like what it's supposed to be or who I am. I don't know. Am I making sense?
You're making sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, being in your head and you have 5 trainers upstairs, me, like we're all here. We believe in you. You have clients that keep coming to see you. I mean, there's, tangible evidence that you have value here. I'm excited you're here.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, that's where it's just, I don't know. That's it. Thank you. I didn't mean to turn this about me, but it's like, I don't know. That's just something that's very helpful. Yeah. For me to hear. And yeah, because I would have never, again, like I watch you teach class and I would have never been like, she doesn't second guess it. She comes in here and she's girl. She's a badass and she's up there like crushing. Like that's my interpretation of you. You know what I mean? Of just like, how we view other people and then versus what goes on in your own head.
So true. Wow. If we were all just 2% nicer to ourselves,
right?
What a difference it'd be.
Yeah. So, but you have to find joy in that now of like having the experience you had of like going to a gym, being like, this is cool. And having that experience of like, I don't want to do this. How can I bring this kind, loving version of health and fitness to this space versus I'm going to judge you on your body when you show up, and to be like part of this change. You like you're bringing such an important role to this. Like you have to be able to sit back and be like, this is really cool what I'm doing.
It is cool. Yeah. And I've definitely through social media have found other people that I would say look like me that are in the fitness industry. And I still will catch myself just my jaw hanging open and be like, oh, I never thought someone that looks like me, that has big legs like me, right?
Yeah.
Could just show up and do this and people take them seriously.
Yeah.
Because I've had other experiences when I did get certified. I worked at a rec center in addition to teaching here. Oh my gosh, 3 or 4 months right before COVID. And there were people in my group fitness class there. And one woman in particular, she stopped in the middle of her workout. I don't know, the rest of the class was doing whatever they were doing. She like looks me up and down and goes, do you actually work out?
Oh, what is wrong with these people?
So, but I've had
Wait, this was the instructor or someone else in class?
Someone in my class.
What the hell?
I was the instructor for a class at a different rec center.
Oh, so you were the instructor and she was in your class and she said that to you? Oh, that is something going on bad in her head, man.
Exactly.
She's got some stuff to deal with.
Yeah. I've been on the receiving end of a lot of projections of what people think health and fitness should look like. And
Oh,
that got in my head a lot.
It just blows my mind because I mean, and not to be creepy, but like you have a beautiful body. Like I was just like, I just can't imagine somebody thinking that or saying that to you. Like that's just, I hate people sometimes.
I can give more instances and more stories that have made me second guess myself so many times, but I just keep thinking, and I have so much respect for Josh, and I kept telling myself, if he hired you, you can do something. There's something here. And eventually that kind of got me through. And now I, feel a lot more confident here. And
well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super happy you're here.
Yeah,
and
thank
I'm
you.
glad that this is such a space where even though, talking about being in my head and comparing myself to the other trainers because they're so good, but it's just like everyone here, including all the clients, is just such a kind, encouraging environment to everyone. And I cannot imagine anybody coming in this space and somebody saying something like that to anyone. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, never. No, this is easily like my favorite gym community I've ever been a part of. So
I love it here. Awesome. Oh my God. Yeah, that's got me messed up.
I'm so sorry to throw you off. I just kind of had to throw it in there of like,
no, but
I didn't just waltz in like with no barriers or obstacles.
But it's just like, the way that people will just say stuff like that to you, it's insane to me. Like, it's just like, it's not hard enough already. Right. Like we need some other person, especially when you think like another woman that's supposed to be like, hell yeah, girl, high five, is trying to tear you down. Like I need that on top of everything else that's trying to tear me down. Like, that just makes me so pissed. Just like, but I would be in the same place where I would think, people have said all sorts of whack stuff to me in my whole lifetime, especially being on the radio. So a lot of people think that they can tell you a lot of things about the way they think you look. Yeah. And so, but like in those moments, you don't say anything back. You just take it. You're just like, and then you just let it burn you.
It's so hard to be on that receiving end. At least I'm not a master of improv by any means. I'm definitely more on the introverted side where I like to kind of process things. And it's like I'm in the shower later. I'm like, oh, this is what I should have said back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I have those thoughts too of just kind of like, there's part of me, and I'm going to be recording a podcast soon on body dysmorphia that like sees myself in this other body. And again, like being the personal trainer of like, I don't feel like I look like a classic, what you would envision a person. Like I have wide hips. I've been over 100 pounds heavier for most of my life, and my body shows signs of, transformation. And yeah, you just like get in your head of like, I don't belong here, that you have to look this certain way. But then you realize that's your power because the people coming to a gym are us.
Yeah.
They're not these like fit physique people that are like, then you're not intimidating to them. And that's the win. And it's focusing on that instead of thinking, except for these random total tool bags that you've run into.
They can stay away, but yeah.
Most people are like, oh, again, like you were saying, like, here's somebody that has a body type like me. Like, I'm hyped to go to the gym now. I got this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's really cool.
Yeah. If I can be that, even just for the 6 people that come to class, I mean, that's it. Job well done.
So if somebody is here in Cincinnati and they wanted to try a Cincy Circuit class, what's the way I don't even know how you sign up for Cincy Circuit. How do you do that?
I'm so glad you asked. We should probably talk about that.
Yeah.
So would highly just recommend making an account on MindBody. So you can download the MindBody app or go to mindbody.com. Search for Cincy 360 Fitness. The first class is free, so you can come try it out. The Wednesday 6 a.m. is a 45-minute express class. So we start right at 6 to get you out of here at 6:45. And then Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. is an hour class. So start at 8:30, end at 9:30. And then from there, it's $12 just to buy a one-off. Or you can buy, a 10-pack, and each class ends up becoming $10. So very affordable as well, which I think draws a lot of people in to come to give us a try.
Awesome. And so I would say it was Cincy360fitness.com. And then from there, there's like classes or I forgot what there's a tab. And
you
then
can also visit the Cincy 360 website.
Yeah, but it'll make you sign up for a MindBody account there.
Yeah.
And so and then do all that and get signed up.
Yeah.
I imagine it fills up quickly, especially with spacing for COVID.
Yeah, space capacity is limited currently. So folks that might want to be interested to come try it for the first time, Make sure you sign up at least a few days in advance, secure your spot. But yeah, love to have anybody new come give us a try.
Oh, man. Well, this conversation has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I'm just my cheeks hurt from smiling so much.
Well, you'll definitely have to come back again, and I will have to try a Cincy Circuit class because I haven't tried one yet.
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. Well, I will see you on Saturday.
All right, see ya.
AmandaValentineBites.com